Okay, we are now in record mode. So hello to everybody who is joining us in the replay. I have several gorgeous babes on the line that are feeling it and are ready to step forward for a little support. And as I was just sharing with the ladies, I've had this sense, although my life, I feel a lot of settling happening right now. I am hearing and sensing and feeling and seeing from everybody else this kind of everything going up in the air and feeling like you are just losing your shit. And this all happens for a very specific reason. It is extremely intense. And it really is the prompting as to why I felt called to do this laser coaching session. Plus, I had the time open in my afternoon, and I love this stuff. So I thought it would just be really, really right time. We have some people that are finishing up or having just finished up the 21-day money power shift. So any of your money questions, receiving questions, anything around that, definitely bring that to this call. And anything in general, just because I know that there's so much just feeling that's happening right now, and it's pretty intense. And as I was saying before I started the recording, I'm not somebody who is really well versed in understanding about this whole solar eclipse and what that means energetically for us. There's plenty of people out there that are doing that type of work. So if it's something that you're into, I can definitely point you in a couple of directions, but that is not what I'm going to be talking about, because I just don't know that stuff. It's fascinating to me, just not where my gifts lie. So really bring anything that you'd like to this call. I've got a couple of questions on deck from a couple of ladies who cannot be here for this live training that I'm going to get to. And what these ladies who are here live are finding is that they're not alone. Everybody's kind of feeling this intensity happening. And the first question that I have here is from Joy. And she says, I'm wanting some support. I've fallen off everything. I know I'm doing a good job, but I haven't been doing everything I feel like I should be doing. And I don't think that Joy is alone. And what is really unique about you that are plugging into this call, this shift's been going on. You've been listening to what I've been saying. It's been making an impact on your life. You've been shifting your perspectives. And as much as we would love the realization and integration process to just feel amazing, it's just the realization process that feels amazing. So it feels like, oh, yes, finally I can let this go. Finally, I can see the light. Finally, I can see clearly everything that I'm doing wrong and how to do it right. And then you wake up the next day and everything seems like it's falling apart. And that's because realization happens instantly. It feels amazing. It feels expansive. It's like that aha moment. And it's directly followed by the integration process, which hurts, quite frankly. It hurts. It's a painful process. It stirs up a lot of things. And if we think about it in the sense of that realization being that, like, let's look at it from an artist perspective. And I know that this will relate to Joy because she just oozes art with her very beingness. But if you think about getting the inspiration to make a sculpture, it happens instantaneously. You can see every detail of it, but then you got to get started on the project. And it's very laborious. Is that the right word? It's very labor intensive, and it takes a lot of sweat, a lot of commitment. And it's not just the realization or the inspiration that brings it to full fruition. The inspiration is just a kickoff to the creation process. So that's where like the real journey begins. That's why I say throughout the 21-day money power shift, the real shift begins on day 22, when you don't have that little reminder, when you don't have that fresh little video to plug into, when you don't have the results that you thought you were going to have come day 22. When that's not happening in your world, then everything kind of starts to get shook up. And this is the interesting thing about the creation process that not a lot of people talk about. The creation and destruction process is the same exact thing. In order to create something new, everything that you have going on that is unlike or not in support of the new creation, it must die off, it must fall away. And if we think about like pruning a tree, there is just some releasing and some letting go. There are some healthy branches that also have to be cut off, because letting that part go will allow for greater growth down the road. So as we go through this pruning process of ourselves and we're identifying, what branches can we trim off and let go? What branches can we maybe just set to the side for now and re-engage with once we have more stability? This is the same thing that happens for us. So we don't look at trimming a tree and think, oh my gosh, you're killing the tree. not if you actually know what you're doing, right? Really is about that pruning process and continuing to refine and continuing to refine. Here's the caveat though. If you're going through this refining process because there's something wrong with you and you're trying to get yourself to be different in the end, it's going to be way more painful than if you embrace the refining process as kind of like just uncovering what is truly there, peeling back the layers of it. And when I look at it as a releasing or shedding or letting go, then as that turmoil and chaos arises within me and around me, I'm able to stay more grounded. It doesn't mean I don't lose my shit. Sometimes I do, but I'm able to stay more grounded because I know it's on its way out. And as it leaves us, it's creating space for what you desire. So although it's painful, you're actually getting exactly what you asked for. And it's coming in the most kind, gentle, easy way possible, even though it feels like it might be like peeling your face off, right? Just imagine if it was going faster, because that's what we think. We're like, just get me to the end because I'm tired of all this. If it went any faster, you'd be like in a coma. Your body couldn't handle it. Your mind couldn't keep up with it. And life knows this, and life's working with you, and it's orchestrating all this with you. So while the way's unfolding, there's just a lot of refining that's happening along the way. And this is why self-love is so important. Because you're going to go through so much that is uncomfortable. You're going to go through so much hurt. You're going to go through so much disappointment, frustration, overwhelm. And the only person that's going to go through every little bit of it with you is your internal you. So as life seems to be shifting on the outside, it's so important to start cultivating and really paying attention to what's the experience that you are having of you on the internal level, because that determines what your experience is all the way around in your life. I'm just going to read some of these comments to make sure I'm hitting on point here. Yeah, Amber says, me too, Joy. Joy says, I'm glad I'm not alone, Amber, for like 3 weeks or 12 days. Yeah, totally. This has been going on for the last couple of weeks. Everything's kind of ramped up. And I mean, it's not just from you ladies who are here. I've just heard this and seen it in so many different places. So just know it's part of the healing process. Like in the Western world, we think of there's healing and there's disease. But in truth, disease is the symptoms of healing. So we have to be able to switch that in our mind in order to have a more luxurious experience of ourselves instead of one that just causes a lot of pain and suffering. Joy looks like she's typing. So I've been feeling way more in my body, but also distinctly that there are other things going on above me. Like some part of me is flying out there, but my body is where my awareness is. Yeah. So this is the integration process is what you're referring to. Your soul, okay, so it's like you have an awareness, like, oh my gosh, I'm so much more me than I even realized. Like there's so much more to me than what I've been bringing to the surface in my life. So as your soul self starts to integrate into your body and settle into your physical self, it's very uncomfortable for the ego because the ego's used to calling all the shots. It's like, well, what's going on here? Like, I thought I was in charge. I thought that I was the one who had this all figured out. And even though on a conscious level, you know that the steps that you're taking are moving you in the direction that you want, have you met the ego? Like, it's very sure that its job is to keep you alive. And where you're going is unknown, uncharted territory. So it's freaking out. And that freaking out sensation is your intuition letting the ego know, hey, you're losing some grip here. And that's okay because the soul's starting to take over and now you can relax. But the ego doesn't want to hear that. The ego just hears, what? I'm losing control? We might die. It's very dramatic. It's the part of us that's like so ridiculously dramatic. Yeah, Amber says, yes, ego is freaking out. Why are you so still? Yes. The ego doesn't like to be still. The ego likes to be moving because if you're moving, you're distracted, you're busy, you're productive, you're doing something. It does not like being still. That's why we have to start to build that relationship with ourselves. The external self has to start to befriend the heart. The heart befriends everybody, so it's pretty easy transition for the heart. But the heart's always like, oh yeah, that's right, I can do this. Oh yeah, that's right, I can do this. Where the ego's like, I'm just not sure. This kind of hurts. It's uncomfortable. Shouldn't I be busier? Shouldn't I be moving more? Hey, welcome whoever just joined us live.
Hi.
That's Sarah's, a 716 number.
What? Yes. Sarah.
Is it Sarah?
Yes, it is.
Hey, sweetie, I'm glad that you found us. I was just going back over here to make sure that you saw the little comments. Perfect. Okay. So I am going to mute your line out, Sarah. You're just over a landline or over a phone?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we got some activity happening in the chat, so I'll recap all that for you so you don't miss out on that. And whenever I take a pause to like open it up on the floor, I'll unmute you. So if you got anything that you want to shout out and say, then you can share then. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome, sweetie. I'm so glad you're here. Now I'm going to mute you. Okay. Always feels weird when I can't hear and see what's happening on the other line. Okay. Yes. And Sarah Joy says hi. And Joy also says, I definitely feel like I'm going to die. Yeah, it feels like this is for me. This is what it feels like for me. It feels like a ripping apart on the inside. Like it really does. And it really makes me think about flowers whenever they bloom and butterflies when they come out of cocoons, and not to get all hippie on you. But I mean, that's got to be quite a painful experience. Quite a painful experience to go and to press and to shoot out into the world. And I think that that's the same thing that's happening with us. We are not killing off the ego, but that's what the ego thinks is happening. We're just shifting roles with it. And there's a lot of old, outdated spiritual philosophy that's around identifying and eliminating the ego. And when you spend all of your time just trying to shut down the ego and not feel the ego and not interact with the ego, you're going to find this a lot more uncomfortable than if you can accept that the ego is also part of this spiritual experience and that it's one to be integrated with. So I kind of look at it like, I don't know, like I'm the shell of Chrissy, and then the soul of Chrissy, the soul self of Chrissy, the one that's like, yes, I'm going to go into this world. I'm going to have this human experience. I'm going to rock it out, and I'm going to pick this chick to do it all through. And as this automatic pilot thing happens from the very beginning, as that autopilot begins to ease off and my soul starts to wake up and speak up more and becomes more integrated and expressed as to who I am, it's painful for the ego because it's scared to let go. It's like, but I don't want to stop hiding, because what if I put myself out there and it all goes to shit? You know, I don't want to break out of my fear-based patterns, even though I know that I can't bring my fear-based patterns to where I want to be. It's like I can see where I want to be. I can feel what that feels like, but I'm not ready to let this go until I got this happening. But this can't happen till I let this go. And it really helps if you can visually see what I'm talking about right now. So sorry for those of you who can't see my hand pointing in the different directions, but hopefully it still makes sense to you. And when you can just identify and have the awareness and wake up to the fact that this is what's happening, you can turn your attention to loving the one who's going through it instead of still making her wrong, because shouldn't she have her shit together by now? Shouldn't all this information have stopped and alleviated all this pain? Is there still something that she's missing? No, baby, you're doing it all. And the fact that you're hurting right now is evidence of that. And not because you have to hurt, it just shows your old perspective is clashing with your new perspective. And only one can emerge victorious. So in this battle of the two selves, are you going to allow your default patterning of hiding, closing yourself off, keeping yourself tucked away to take over? Or are you going to just surrender because you're so tired of fighting it and just allow the process to unfold you? Very subtle shift, and I'd love to know from some of y'all how this is landing for you. Joy says, I've been thinking about that transformation and wondering how to get my mind on board. It feels so fuzzy, like stuff is changing, but I feel like my mind is resisting and I just want to sleep all the time. Yeah, it's like, can I just sleep through the next couple of years and then wake up in that better place with that overflowing bank account and that business all well established? And yeah, that would be great, but you didn't freaking come here for that. You came here to go through all of it. When you ask for what you want, you get the entire thing. You don't just get the shiny parts at the end. You get the process of going to it, going through it, and everything that you go through is setting you up for that. It's trying to wear you out. It's trying to tire you out. It's trying to wear you down so that you'll stop and just surrender to the soul and allow the soul to lead the way. It doesn't mean you're going to get through this unscathed in the sense of you're not going to feel anything. Sorry, it's the human experience. You get to feel all the feels as a human. It's pretty badass if you think about it. I mean, if you think about it from the perspective of what if we're just limitless love beings who feel only love and fulfillment all the time until we come into this human form, then we get the whole roller coaster, we get the whole gamut of it. You don't get to skip just to the feel good parts, even though that would be nice. It's just not, it doesn't make the feel good. The only reason it feels so sweet on the other side is because you have finally stopped suffering. So we think, well, just alleviate it so I can stop suffering so I can feel good now. But that's kind of like, I don't know, it's like a shortcut. It's like going to run a 5K and sitting on the sidelines but getting a medal at the end. You know that you didn't really go through the experience, but you got that medal to show for it. You got to go through the 5K. And even if you just walk the whole time or if you take a bunch of breaks, it doesn't freaking matter. You got to the end, you got that medal and you did it and you can never undo it. And you will only be able to, you'll always be able to set yourself up for a higher level of success the next way around. But we got to stop looking at where we at is wrong. We got to stop looking at ourselves as being wrong because that shit's just not helping. It's not helping. People are doing crazy things. Life around you is falling apart. This is all you got to work with. So why make this part more frustrating than it has to be when all these people around you are just shitting on you left and right? It's like self-love is the biggest middle finger that you can give to the world. And it's attached back to love. So there you go. See? It's a big F you to the world from a very loving place because it's like, world, do whatever you're going to do. I'm going to decide to love me while I'm pissed off, while I'm frustrated, while I'm in the bed with a blanket over my head, because this is the integration process. It's not pretty. That's why a lot of people like turn back. But once you cross a certain line, at least for me, once I crossed a certain line, there was no going back. You can't not, I don't know, the mind just can't be unexpanded once it's expanded. Can't just unknow what you've learned. Joy says more than subtle. I don't know which part that refers to, but I'm guessing that it's a little bit more than subtle life getting your attention. Yeah. Amber says, thank you. I need to recognize and love my new conscious self who is so chill. My old self is like, get your ass up and hustle. That's right. You need to tell your old self, you know what? Stillness is the new hustle. What? Stillness is the new hustle. Yeah. Because when you're still, you get a chance to catch up with you. This is what's happened. Your mind's 50,000 miles down the road. Your mind's already at that end destination, right? Your mind's already, Joy, because I know what your vision is, your mind is already living at that retreat center. Well, the rest of you has to catch up with that. So the more that you can be still, the more power you tap into. It's like there's parts of you, you got to take your whole self on the journey. And if you're running ahead and you're like, nah, I'm just going to leave this little part back here, it's not going to let you. And this is what's really interesting. This is what my new thought process that I'm trying on over this past week is, what if that uncomfortableness that you're feeling, what if that is what your soul feels like when you try to shove it back away? So I gave this great example. I don't know when it was. It was probably on the Confidence Challenge recap. Maybe I was talking to somebody else. I don't know. I was doing something in my room, in my office, and it was something that, wasn't a big deal thing, but it was just something I didn't feel like having a conversation around with my husband. So I was like, okay, while he's downstairs, I'm going to just take care of this real quick. And he came upstairs and I wasn't expecting it. As soon as I heard the door open, I was like, I felt this like kind of zing through my body. And I was like, that was such an interesting response. Like, I'm not afraid of him. I'm not even afraid to have the conversation. You know what I mean? It's like there was nothing to really hide. It's just as soon as that door opened, my instinct was, let me tuck away this part of myself. And what if that's the reason it felt so horrible? Is because I was like, okay, Chrissy, back inside. You're not going to be able to come out and play right now. What if that's the shittiness that I'm feeling? What if it's not, him or his choices or his actions, but what if it's me shoving that part back inside of me? And ever since I've had that thought, I don't know, I think differently about this discomfort that's arising. It's like my soul stuff's just pushing all that other stuff out of the way and asking to come forward. Amber says, yes. Joy says, boomerang. Exactly, right? You can't, I mean, you just, there's no getting out of this. I mean, we know the only way to get out of this, and most of us are pretty committed to not going that route. And it makes more sense as you start to go through this why so many people have been checking out and deciding to leave this life for whatever reason, whatever path, whatever avenue they're taking for this, be it accidental or intentional or what. I think that a lot of the drug addictions out there right now are really just spiritual crises. I think that we're just ill-equipped as a society to really be supported going through this. We don't talk about this kind of stuff, so we're left to think it's just me when we have, 5 ladies on the line that are like, that's me too. We're so not alone in this. And part of our job as empathic beings that we are is to not only free ourselves of this, but to cleanse it from the entire collective human consciousness. Now, that's a lot of feels. That's a lot of feels. So part of what you're feeling is going to be in relation to what you're actually experiencing. But most likely for us who are doing this work, who are engaged in this conversation, we're going to feel to a higher degree than what our reality looks like. And that's part of the reason that I think that suicide can come about for some people, is because whenever you look around at your life, you're like, really, I've got nothing to complain about or feel horrible about, or the things that I could point to, they're just kind of minor, or they look minor on the outside, but how I feel on the inside is so intense that I feel foolish or silly to even bring this conversation out into the open, because I can even talk myself into a different mindset when I sit here, but I still feel this and I still feel like I'm dying and I still want to get away from it. And I don't know if this relates to anybody else, but this has been something that's been really weighing on my heart lately. Being somebody who has walked the line um, for quite a while of deciding which which side of the line I want to stay participating on. I just have really, it's been brought to my attention recently that this is really a conversation that needs to be had more and more and more and more, because more and more and more of us are feeling this way, and with us not talking about it, it just really intensifies it. Rachel says, holy crap, yeah. So Rachel, I am glad that this is hitting home with you, sweetie, because I know that you, out of the ladies that are here plugged in, you have been following this line of thinking for the longest. So I always like to know that I'm bringing something fresh to the table and really hitting on what's happening right now. So I'm going to let all of that settle in with y'all. And if anybody else has anything else that they want to talk about, you can unmute yourself. I'll let you unmute yourself. And well, actually, Sarah, let me unmute you, because I don't know if you know how to do that on your phone or not. Rachel, I think you know how to do it. The other ladies. Hey, Sarah, I got the line open if you want to speak up. No pressure. Okay. I'll mute you back, Sarah, and I'll answer a couple questions. And then if you got anything later, we can open the line back up for you. Okay. So switching gears just a little bit. Let me go over here and read Jackie's question and see if we can segue this one over a little bit more smoothly than shifting gears and talking about money and receiving. So Jackie was writing in and asked for me to discuss how to help in releasing her inner goddess, feeling comfortable and taking the lead in sex. She thinks it's due to past body image issues. It was opposite in the beginning of her relationship, but after her child, her body changed, obviously, and think this is about accepting herself. Any insight, guidance, small practices would help. I still tell myself I love you every morning and night, so it's expanding on that, which I know takes time. I fear the action and maybe being rejected. Yes, yes, yes. So, Jackie, I'm really feeling you on this one. Sex is another topic that we need to talk about more and more and more, especially as women. We just need to be able to get in touch with our sexuality, just like money, and understand what it is as well as what it's not, so that we can really tap into a more empowered experience of ourselves whenever we're dealing with money, whenever we're dealing with sex, whenever we're dealing with power, and really learn how to free ourselves of the guilt and the shame that we can get wrapped up in these specific areas. Our society definitely doesn't set us up for massive success in these areas. And in fact, if anything, it keeps us very disconnected from ourselves and very confused over what these energies are in our world, let alone our association with them. So part of what has really helped me in this department, one, well, let's talk about body image issues. Yeah, girlfriend, your body is perfect. Perfect. It doesn't need to change. It doesn't need to be any different. You are sexy. You are hot. You got it going on. And I don't even need to see your body naked to know this is a truth about you. This is a fact. If your body was supposed to be different, it would be different. And how your body is right now, it is a miracle. It is a miracle. It is the most miraculous thing ever. This thing has so much power. It's ridiculous. And when we can move past the societal conditioning over what our form should look like and understand that until there is another Jacqueline that is set down right next to you who looks different from you and is you, then you cannot prove to me that there is anything wrong with your body, how it is, how it's needing to express itself, anything. You know, we are such intuitive beings that sometimes we naturally increase what we eat so that we can put on weight in our physical form so that we can help our soul to have that density and to weigh it down to help with the integration process. While I know you're dealing with the changes that happen after childbirth, just understanding your body is intuitively guiding you to exactly what it needs. The more that you can build that relationship with yourself, that you can take that stillness with yourself, that you can tap into and really listen to what your body is telling you, the more it can guide you to exactly how you need to be eating or not eating. Joy says, I've been eating a lot lately. I have too. And what's interesting is that my body stopped eating for like six months, probably from like February till, I don't know, last week, apparently. And I just felt full, satisfied, not hungry, not interested in food, not turned off from food. You set down my favorite meal right in front of me, I would be so excited, but I would get halfway through it or maybe a third of the way through it, and I would just feel complete. That is a new sensation for this gal. I've never had that feeling with food. I've always had if it's good, you eat it till it's gone or until I physically feel like I can't eat any further at all. So understanding that our body has so much wisdom, and it's always guiding us. And the more that we can just really trust ourselves, trust the process, and listen to where we're being pulled, then we can start to override those egoic sensations to go one way versus the other. Like, I don't know, going to get a milkshake every single day. Um, there's other ways that you can ground yourself. But you know what? If your soul says, I need to eat ice cream every single day, then you listen to your soul and you love the one who is eating that ice cream. And you challenge yourself to take a look at why you are being so hard on yourself. Is this really a problem? Or is this a problem because that's what society says you should not be doing? And this is what we get to buck up against during this whole awakening journey. We get the opportunity to take a step back and decide for ourselves, do I want to keep making this decision? Do I want to keep living this way? Is this in alignment with where I'm going and what I know to be true about myself? Or is this a chance to say, you know what, life, or you know what, society? Thanks, but no thanks. I appreciate that you think it's inappropriate for me to do these things, but I'm giving myself permission to do them just the same. And that radical level of self-love, it will transform everything for you. It will just take over your life. And I say that because that's what happened to me. I didn't actively, a year and a half ago when I started with the I love you practice, I didn't go into it saying, this is going to change my whole entire world. This is going to make everything work better. I went into it saying, I'm going to go through a lot of shit. Been through a lot of shit. I'm going to go through a lot of shit. And I'm just signing up to be the one person throughout this entire experience that makes sure, without a doubt, any chance that I can, I'm not going to be the one who's shitting on me because I've done it too much. Other people have done it far too much. And I just refuse to participate anymore. It doesn't mean that I don't slip into it. Of course I slip into it. But then I catch myself. And I don't make myself wrong for slipping into it. I just say, look at you, badass bitch, to catching it on the other side. It's amazing. But nobody can do this part for us. Amber says, I feel like I'm getting my hair done, washed, energetically listening to you. I love the head message of your energy is on point. Okay, beautiful. I'm so glad. I think about this stuff as like soul massages because, you know, I'm a massage therapist by trade. And I feel like I kind of go in there and energetically like smooth out all the kinks and all the crinkles and all the tension areas energetically. So I love that you're sensing that. and feeling that way. Yes, yes, yes. So, Jackie, to expand on this a little bit, first and foremost, keep up with the I love yous. Take that stillness with yourself. Really get in touch with the perfection that your body is. Every time you look in the mirror, this is going to sound like so cliche that it almost makes me want to throw up. And it only makes me want to throw up because it's become so cliche. But tell yourself when you look in the mirror that you love your body, every last bit of it. Love it, love it, love it. I tell you, I feel like smoking hot is how I feel about myself. And I know that if you put that out onto the internet, many people would have objections with that and be like, yeah, I don't think so. I can still point to 50 different ways that my body could be different, but I've never felt more amazing. And it is because of the self love. I decided I'm going to love myself anyway. I told myself I love myself every time that I look at the mirror. I love my curves. I love everything about me. I love my belly. I love my hips. I love all of it. And I don't know how. I don't know how other than I continue to say I love you, and I continue to make what I saw in the mirror, stopped making what I saw in the mirror wrong. I've never felt more sexy before in my life, and I don't know if I have looked more sexy, but I've never felt so sexy. I don't know what other people are thinking, but I've never known what other people are thinking. So now I just make up stories that they're like, dang, look at that chick. When they might be thinking, oh my God, she left the house like that. I don't know. But the experience that I have of me, hot mama. Emphasis on the mama. There's nothing more sexy than a woman who has birthed life into this world. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There's nothing more sexy than that. It is amazing. Amazing. Start with the self love. Now, I want to touch on this too because this really helped me in the sex department. I realized that I was holding, and this is different than your situation, but I still got a feeling other people need to hear it. And I also think it'll help you to take the essence of what I'm saying and apply it into your own situation. I realized, let's see, about 24 hours before I conceived my daughter, I realized that I was holding my husband responsible for past not so good sexual experiences. And when he would make a purchase towards me, it would trigger in my mind in the past people making advances on me that didn't necessarily have the intention to love and cherish me for the rest of my life. So it would bring forth this feeling of like being treated like a piece of meat or not being valued or just looking to get off or whatever other story it would conjure up inside of me. And it made me shut down with him. And when I realized that that is not what my husband's doing, he is making these advances to express love in a form that he is not giving to anybody else. I realized that I was stopping myself from receiving. I was stopping myself from receiving pleasure. I was stopping myself from receiving love. And I was stopping him from having the ability to express it to me in that way. And it really opened me up and shifted my awareness. And literally that night, I was just like, I want to give all of myself to you. I want to receive all of you. And then I was pregnant. So I don't know if that's a recipe for getting pregnant or not, but I do know that for about 2.5 years prior, we had been having sex semi unprotected, but not fully responsible, like fully responsible adults who are trying not to get pregnant would do. And I never once got pregnant, never once came close to it. And then just, yeah, the next moment I knew there I was pregnant. So, being able to understand what are you holding the person that is in front of you to that has nothing to do with them and has everything to do with your past. I think that you're going to start to align yourself to a more authentic way of how to resolve this and how to allow that sexual goddess to come forth. First, you got to love the form of which she's taking, which is your physical body. Two, you have to allow her to be dealing in the present moment, real world time, and not making decisions based on past experiences. And that is going to allow you to identify with what it is that you want and go for it, regardless if you get it or not. Understand that whole fear of rejection. Like, that's what stops us from doing anything, right? So if you're not taking action in the direction that you want to go, be it in the bedroom or be it in your business, it all comes down to confidence. So look there first. Where can you build some confidence about what you're bringing to the table? And where can you either up your conversation with your partner so that you cannot have fear that you're going to be let down if you do make an advance. But that confidence is going to be really, really key to getting you into action in this area. And I hope that I've kind of hit on something that really resonates and helps you to get a little bit more empowered around this. I know the ladies that are on the line are feeling it and understand this some too. Joy says I need to love myself more. I've been checking out the changes, like what? Yeah, but you've been checking out of it instead of staying present with yourself. Yeah, this is the whole name of the game. It's learning how to not abandon you. How to not abandon you. Everybody's done it and it feels like crap. And your fear of people doing it continually down the road, it's just your internal self saying, please don't leave me behind. I know that I don't always make you feel good, but I'm a very reasonable part of you. And I just want to support you moving forward. Can you just support me too? And I just look at all these little parts of myself that make up these outlandish stories as simply that, parts of myself that are wildly creative. But just because I write a horror story doesn't mean that it shouldn't be published. Just because it doesn't feel as good as the bodice ripping romances, right? I don't know. You know me. I like to teach an analogy, so it comes from everywhere. Amber says, "Can you talk about protecting your energy during the transition phase?" Yes, I feel like a felt board. That's a very interesting analogy to use, that you feel like a felt board. Okay, yes. So if you want to expand on that at all, Amber, to make sure that I'm fully understanding you, I will welcome a further explanation, but otherwise, I'm just going to get going. So protecting your energy during the transition phase, it's key. And again, all roads lead back to self-love. When you cultivate a very loving and connected experience and relationship with yourself, you will begin to protect your energy without even consciously telling yourself to do it. It will start to happen. And what's really interesting too is that the more that you cultivate this relationship, the more sensitive you're going to become to the energies around you that don't line up with you. It's like you've dealt with it for so long that you're just kind of used to the uncomfortable feeling that's there. And then once you get a taste of what it feels like to experience yourself without these interferences, it's almost like you refuse to settle for anything less. So whenever they come into your field, it's going to feel more intense and you're going to feel more of a reaction from it, because it's going to feel like you're just getting ripped up from the inside. But the more there's, this is where it gets kind of a slippery slope. There's two sides to everything. Everything has its place and everything has its non-place. It is not your responsibility to manage other people's emotions. It is your responsibility what you allow in your energetic space. So this is where that radical level of responsibility really comes into play. Using discernment between what is your responsibility and what is not is very, very liberating. I used to really scramble to try to line everything up so that my husband wouldn't react in a aggressive way or assertive way. And I found that not only does that exhaust me and it's impossible to do, it's just not my place to do it. It is his responsibility to decide how he's going to show up, react, respond, engage, not mine. And as long as I'm running around trying to keep everything perfect so that he doesn't freak out, I'm actually perpetuating the situation. I'm being an active participant in keeping the situation the same, not in allowing it to evolve and grow. So I had to reel that in and understand what is not my responsibility and what is my responsibility. So it's not my responsibility how he reacts, but if he chooses to react in a way that is a bit too much for my energy to handle or not what I feel like I deserve to be exposed to, it's my responsibility to move myself away from that situation. So becoming more intimately aware of yourself and becoming more aware and using more discernment over where your responsibility lies and where it doesn't, I think that that's the biggest part of protecting your energy during this transition. Learning to listen to yourself and do what feels right by you, no matter how other people react, It's really, really key, because this is the interesting thing that I have found. As I have stopped my patterning in an attempt to alleviate my husband by making him face it head on, he actually gets to alleviate it. And that cycle that got set into motion by me continually running around and making sure everything was perfect, it just blew up. So by me stopping that, because I didn't want something on the other side, I found that by facing it head on, I never have to face what's on the other side. But again, this has come from learning myself on a more intimate level, understanding what I am feeling, what am I thinking, what do I need, what do I deserve, what do I desire, and then using my throat chakra to voice that out into the world. And that may be to the world like this, or it could be to the world like intimate conversation between me and my husband. Amber, I'd love to know if this is resonating with you, if this is going in the direction, if this is helpful for you. There's a lot of people who's like, oh, you have to protect your energy, so cut out all the negative people in your life. Yeah, that will only work for so long. Some of these people you can't cut out of your life. Some of these people you are entrenched with, and they're always going to be somebody who affects your energy field until you shift your participation in it. So again, it's not my job to make sure that I do everything right to make sure that my husband doesn't get in a harumph. But it is my job to stop my cycles of what I'm going to do to avoid him going into a harumph. And once I put attention there, I don't have to worry about dealing with his energy on the other side, because he makes a different choice, because I set him up to be able to evolve himself instead of giving him an easy way to stay slipping back into himself. So I don't know if you need support around protecting your energy, like in your home life, in your day-to-day interactions, or if it's more like, okay, as I put myself out there more, how can I make sure that I am not letting in things that are really going to do me harm? Perfect. And Amber says, yes, a lot. So good. I'm glad that this is hitting home and very helpful for you. Because I think there's a subtle difference. Like, I spent many a year being what I refer to as a spiritual martyr, allowing my spiritual ego to call the shots. And my spiritual ego said, oh, no, 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 Chrissy. You should be able to change yourself more in order to stop getting this reaction from life, because law of attraction says if you stop being these things, other people will stop being those things to you. It's not how it works. It's not how it works. You need to change thinking that you need to change in order to get better results. You let that go, something totally different starts to take place. And it's not for me to continue to change and improve myself at all costs and deal with unkindness that I don't deserve in the meantime. There's a big difference. Big difference between those two, even though they look very much the same. So one had me kind of stuck in this cycle of, okay, I can deal with this shit because this shit just means I'm still fucking it up somewhere. So let me go back and see how I can fix it so that I stop getting this shitty experience over here. Only to find out the shitty experience is happening in here. And this is where it needed to change. And this is the relationship that had to shift. And then all of a sudden there was this warrior goddess energy that took over me, so that whenever I was facing these situations, I actually showed up completely different. Not because I consciously planned it out or was doing in order to get, but because she just wasn't fucking having it. And there was nothing I could do to stop her, because she had been given that loving attention and she knew that she had a place to start to voice herself. And it doesn't make everything just easy peasy and glorious. It causes a lot of disruption, but it gives my partner a chance to decide for himself who he's going to be, instead of just defaulting to the way that he usually is. And the more that, like, I understand that role and let go of that spiritual ego and let go of being like a spiritual martyr, and can just say, no, unkindness is not okay for Chrissy ever. So now I require that kindness has to be in the equation. And if kindness can't be in the equation, that's a sure sign that you and I aren't supposed to engage. And that's how I know that somebody's ready to engage with me, is that they can bring the kindness back around. And it's funny, but when you put it out there, I don't know. It's like my husband now is determined to prove to me that he's not the asshole that he appears to be to me. When before it would just be him drilling in his way. Now it's like he's taken it on as his personal mission to prove that it's not him, and it's causing him to evolve and change in ways that me insisting he needs to change could never do. Rachel says, I so relate to that, Chrissy. It's magical. It is absolutely magical. It's the craziest thing that I've experienced because my gift is practically integrating things and then showing you step by step how you can do it into your own life. But this stuff that I'm tapping into, this is literally, it's magic. It's miracles. There's no other way to describe it because I cannot pinpoint, well, then I said this, and then he said that, and then he said this, and then this happened. All that I know is that I keep turning inward, I keep anchoring within, and life out here keeps changing and keeps changing and keeps changing. And it's getting better and better and better, which it's done all along. But now it's just happening in a different way. And I think it's because I'm not requiring for me to be any different. I'm loving me regardless. I'm loving me when I hit the mark. I'm loving me when I don't hit the mark, and I am not backing down and abandoning myself. Like the more that I walk this path in this way, the more it's like, yeah, that just seems kind of silly. Why would I do that? Why would I jump ship? It's just because I've been conditioned. And I thought that somewhere along the lines I needed to change because other people weren't seeing the awesome that I thought that I had, that I was bringing to the table. And now I just learned that validation that I was seeking, it's only my own. And the more that I can give that to myself, the less that I need it from others. And the more that I give it to myself, the less that I need it from others, the more it shows up in my life. It's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. All right, I'm going to unmute Sarah again while I pull up this other question. And sorry, Sarah, again, not putting you on the spot. Just want to say, hey, if you want to speak out, now is your time. And I've got
I
one
have
other.
a question.
Sure thing. What you got, sweetie?
I feel like I've been lately really wrestling with fears about, and I know you touched on this in your the money power shift, but about making decisions and like fears of making the wrong decision. And I know in my head that that's silly, but you know, I don't know, I'm struggling with getting to a place of like finding peace, and also figuring out how to move forward. Um, I feel like I'm getting caught between my mind and like, not being able to, um, not being able to like be in my heart more, and yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So what I'm hearing is just like this kind of contrast, like knowing that it's okay to move forward, but still having your mind say, yeah, I don't think we really want to do that. Is that kind of hitting the mark for
yeah,
you?
and like and I get caught up in overthinking things a lot, and so then I let myself get afraid of making the wrong choice, um, which then makes it harder for me to act.
Totally. Totally understand that. And I don't think that you're alone at all. I'm pretty sure the ladies on the line can really relate to that as well. Because this is just common. What if I choose to go in one direction, but then I find out afterwards it's going to cause me more pain and suffering than if I had just stayed put? And this is where it gets kind of tricky. Again, we have to use our discernment. And I'm just double checking something here to make sure everybody's taken care of. Okay, so we have to use our discernment, and this is where self-love leads us to self-trust. So whenever I hear someone say, I have this fear of making the wrong decision, I just don't know which direction to move forward, or just feeling that at odds with ourselves, it is typically because we do not trust ourselves enough to move forward. And a lot of times we can take this and we can be like, well, I just don't trust the other person, or I don't trust the economy, or I don't trust whatever. But really, when it comes down to it, if you have a rock solid level of self-trust, you can trust that you can handle whatever's on the other side. So building that solid core of self-love is really the precursor for being able to build that self-trust, because once you fall totally head over heels in love with yourself, you're going to start to take some risks, because it's the same thing that you would do with any other loved one in your life that you can help them get what they want. You're going to start to take these risks. And as you start to take these risks and you follow through on things that you previously left undone, then you begin to trust yourself, because you're like, okay, well, maybe I didn't hit the mark, but I did learn this, and now I'm more equipped going further. Or, you go for it and you find out, hey, that really worked out. So you can trust yourself to do it again and do it again and do it again. And that self-trust is really where we build that confidence, where we can get that unshakable level of confidence, is because when you can trust yourself no matter what's happening, then you'll be like, okay, sure, I'll volunteer for it no matter whatever the situation is, because you trust yourself to be able to go through it. So what helps me as I journey forward and, still have this human body that I got to lug around with me, and I still got this human mind that likes to step in and say a ton of things that I don't ask it to say. Um, I have had, what has really helped me to surrender to my journey is taking on this belief. Now I'll propose it as a what if, because I can't prove any of this. What if before you enter this life, you decided, you pre-planned everything that was going to happen in your life? You mapped it all out, the good stuff, the bad stuff. You chose all the characters to fill in all the supporting roles so that you can all have this great spiritual movement together. And what if you had it all planned out, and how you know what's coming down the road is what your intuition brings up for you? So, like that vision for what you desire, that's a preview for what's to come down the road. So, looking at it from that perspective, you don't have to do anything. And there is no wrong choice, because even what seems like a wrong choice was the right choice for this spiritual journey. So if you go left or you go right, it's just an illusion that there's a choice there, because you built this life to make it look as such. And that's the way that it works on this earthly realm. It looks like you could go left or right, but it's predetermined. Whichever way you go is going to lead you to exactly the circumstances that you needed for your soul's evolution. So moving forward, your success is inevitable. Moving forward, you can't make a wrong choice, but you're not going to be able to experience it as if you're having a really empowered experience unless you can cultivate that level of self-love and build your self-trust to the point that no matter if you go left or right, whatever comes across your path, you are fully equipped to handle. And you're either fully equipped to handle it, or life is going to assist you in handling it, but you're never going to know that you're equipped and see that assistance until you're actually in it and need it. So we can do all the overthinking. And Rachel chimed in. She says, overthinker right here too. I'm married to an overthinker. And it's very interesting being a visionary who's married to an overthinker, because we both see the future, but it's in very different ways. So like when I think about what's possible down the road, I'm like, yes. And he's like, no, because he sees how like everything can go wrong. So this is just an aspect of you. This is what I would recommend for you to do. Start building a relationship with the part of you that's the overthinker. You want to connect with this aspect of Sarah. You want to comfort her. You want to support her. You want to soothe her. And this is going to be your key question that you ask her. Sarah, what do you need right now to feel more at ease? What do you need to hear someone say? What do you need to have happen? Let's just stick with, what do you need to hear? What do you need to hear right now in order to feel more relaxed? I'm writing this down because this is good stuff. In order to feel more confident, whatever that feeling is that you want, like what feeling do you need in order to move forward? And what do you need to hear said to you so that you can evoke that feeling and be able to move forward? And this is how your intuition is getting you more connected with your internal self, because it'll be your intuition that says, I just need someone to say it's going to be okay. Then you say, okay, Sarah, it's going to be okay. And you start to give to yourself exactly what your internal self needs. Girl, it's one of those things that in concept, it's like, Chrissy, that just seems kind of pointless. But in practical application, you're going to be like, dang, that feels amazing. And you'll start to see that all that you want, all that inner Sarah wants, is outer Sarah's approval, acceptance, love, validation, support. And the more that you cultivate this relationship, the more you're going to naturally have that for yourself. And the more you're going to be able to have that really powerful, intimate dance between your outer self and your inner self, and allow your outer self to surrender to your inner self and live your inner self's desires out loud and expressed in your life. Because that's all that you really want, is that reassurance is going to be okay. It doesn't even really matter, I'm sensing, what it is that you go through, as long as you know it's going to be okay. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So start kind of pre-paving the way, and regardless if Sarah takes action or not, this isn't about trying to get Sarah to do what Sarah wants her to do. This is about Sarah giving Sarah love regardless of what Sarah's doing or not doing. So if Sarah's scared, Sarah's going to love the one who's scared. And if Sarah's
Yes.
prompted to take action once she feels that loving support come in, then that's beautiful. And if she says, "Thank you, I'm glad you're here for me, but I'm still not going to do it," then Sarah says, "Okay, what would you like to do instead?" And then you and Sarah go have a great time doing that, knowing that you can't miss out on anything. You can't. You can't miss out on your destiny. It's just not possible. In a world of infinite possibilities, that is one thing that cannot happen. You can't miss out on your destiny. You can't screw this up. So if we can just lift out that little part of us that thinks I'm screwing it up, or learn how to love her enough so that she can get with the programs, kind of, sort of, so to speak, right? Then
Mm-hmm.
we'll have a totally different experience. Because if you could just know that all roads lead to success, again, for me, I
Mm-hmm.
just kind of shifted to where it's like, oh, this is just training ground. I'm on my way there.
Yeah.
And if we looked at it like we're just in training, we wouldn't be so freaking hard on ourselves. If we can say, oh, okay, if I'm not experiencing this blissful experience, it just means I'm on my way to that blissful experience. If we could just have that little bit of a shift, then we wouldn't be so hard on ourselves. We'd be like, oh, this sucks. But thank goodness I've got myself to support myself through it. Because Lord knows, and the past has shown, these other jokers around me aren't going to do it. We all got the jokers, the rascals, the scoundrels. We know who they are. We know who those characters are in our life, right? And a lot of times it's like, if they could just get on board, then I can just shine. No, baby, you got to get on board with yourself. And then you're going to shine and realize those who want to bask in your glory, well, you can't do anything to get rid of those people. And those who don't, you could have never shined in a way that would have made them stick around anyway. Not that you're necessarily talking about people in your life, but just general. That's what we fear. It's like, well, if I make the wrong choice, everybody's going to abandon me. No, because it doesn't even matter if they do, because the right choice, the right people are the ones who stay by you, regardless of what you do. You just can't screw this up. You can't get it wrong. We've just been conditioned. There's a right way to do things, and it looks like this. And if you don't look like this, and you don't move like this, and you don't talk like this, sorry, get ready for struggle. But in truth, you didn't come here to move like anybody else, to talk like anybody else, to do anything like anybody else. You came here to be your own unique expression. And I'm sure Joy can relate to that through her dancing. Like you can't make yourself dance like other people, and you can't teach other people to dance like you. You can only move your body how your body moves, and that's that. Yeah, there's some techniques, there's some structure, blah, blah, blah. But when it really comes down to it, you came here to be you. And part of the discord and dis-ease that you feel inside yourself is because you are trying to fit yourself into something that is not you. But you're never going to be able to really realize that on a conscious level until you get to know you. Because once you get to know you, like really, what do you like? What do you prefer? Then you're not ever going to know if you're making that choice based on what's true to you, or if you're just going through the motions because it's just easier because everybody's going that direction too. Is that helpful?
Yeah, super helpful. Thank you.
Beautiful. Any other thoughts that you want to expand on with that, Sarah?
I don't think so.
Okay. Check out the self-love series that I'm dropping this week in the mastermind group. If you haven't yet, definitely check that out. It's very subtle. It's just step-by-step process of getting to know yourself better and
Yeah.
shifting the experience that you have with you. I think you'll like it a lot, a lot, a lot.
Thank
Awesome. You're welcome, sweetie. I'm glad that you're here on the line. I'm going to mute you back out
you.
and catch up on some of these comments. Joy says, spot on, Chrissy. Amber says, I've done that and it works. I also found supporting my younger self at the age I felt the least supported helps. Yes, 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 Amber. Part of the healing process is going to be led by your intuition, and your intuition is going to let you know what aspect you're ready to heal by what comes up inside of you. So if something happens and it's like, well, this is just like that crappy thing that happened to me in high school, guess what you're really healing? That crappy thing that happened to you in high school. Is giving you an opportunity to change the way that you treat yourself in that experience. So, how do you know where to send the love next? It's the image of you that comes to mind. I have a lot of middle school images that come to mind whenever I talk about this stuff, whenever I think about it on my own. Middle school is where it all started to go horribly wrong for me, from the best that I can recall, because it was the first time that somebody pointed a finger at me and said that I was wrong for being how I am. And it was on the physical level. So, from that moment forward, I was too big. And from that moment forward, I lived my life as if I was too big. And guess what? Every experience that I had of myself and every way that I self identified as somebody who's too big. What? Now I look back and I'm like, yeah, I just got a woman's body a little bit before these other tiny people that I was friends with did. And there was actually nothing wrong with me that whole time. So I pull up eighth grade Chrissy, who's in the bathroom crying. Don't even know why. She's in the school bathroom crying. I see her. And I say to her everything that nobody else had even the slightest awareness that she needed to hear at that time. And I quite frankly love the hell out of eighth grade Chrissy until I feel really complete with her. And she must need a lot of love because she comes to mind a lot whenever I talk about these things, or she's a very, she's iconic for representing what everybody else is dealing with too. The part of you that comes forward, that's the one that you send your love to. The part of your body that feels uncomfortable, that's where you love yourself more. And when you can correlate what's physically happening in your body to what it could represent energetically, you can really tap into some powerful messages that your intuition is sending you and help to really unravel and allow the healing process to be complete. And this is very important too. It doesn't so much matter when you're done with it, it will let go of you when it's done with you. So you might be tired of money struggles, and you might be ready for money struggles to leave your realm, but money struggles are going to leave your realm when money struggles are done with you. And it will come back around until you do not waver from your faith, from your knowingness, from your self love whenever it enters the room. It's going to keep coming around. It's going to keep coming around until it can enter the room and you're like, hey, what's up? High five. Feel free to stay a while. And at that point, it knows that its job is complete and it will let you go until it needs to come in and check on you again. So it doesn't really matter how over it you are. Lord knows I've been over this shit from the moment that I realized it was happening 7 years ago. I've been over it since before I even knew it was happening. But it's not done with me. Not completely, but parts of it are starting to finish up with me. Parts of it don't show up for me at all anymore. And I think that we can definitely hit a point where it can't even come within like an 80-foot radius of us, but we got a lot of work to do until then. And interestingly enough, we've got nothing to do until then. Don't you love that paradox? Don't need to do anything, but there's a lot of work to do, but you don't need to do anything because you don't. You already are everything. You just need to build a relationship with that aspect of yourself that is doubting that. Maybe that's the remedy for this human experience. Right? I don't know. I don't think there really is a remedy for it. It's just understanding that you're not going to hit a point where everything's just peaches and cream, but you can hit a point that no matter what comes your way, it can taste like peaches and cream to you. If you're into peaches and cream, otherwise, it could be chocolate cake or a tasty salad. I don't know what you're into. It can be whatever flavor you like the most, no matter what flavor it is. Or flowers and la la. Exactly. It can be anything. Anything. You get to decide what it is. That's how powerful you are. You can look at that and be like, oh, pile of shit. Must be having more money come my way. Glad this was here today. Or you can look at it as, why the freak does the dog have to poop on the floor every single time I'm trying to walk out the door? She's trying to let you know how abundant you are. It's up to you. It's up to you. You can't change the dog from pooping on the floor, but you can change what it means. We're pretty badass that way. Pretty badass. And what if the only reason that we feel anything less than that is because we're showing up less than that in our life? I don't know because I haven't shown up feeling badass in every single moment. I haven't shown up feeling like I'm badass or, using the cue of not feeling badass to return to my badassness. I haven't done that 100% in my life 100% of the time, but I do know that the times that I do it, I have a much better experience of me. That I do know. So to me, it's worth exploring more and more and more and more and more. Did I hit on everything? Any other questions out there? We're at an hour and 15 minutes. I'm sure my mom's ready to go home downstairs. I am going to touch on this last question. So, you ladies be thinking if there's anything else that you want to talk about. So, Erin had chimed in about Dave Ramsey. Her and her husband have been following Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey is the law around their house. Dave Ramsey, Dave Ramsey, Dave Ramsey. And she wants to know how the philosophies that I bring forth in the 21-day money power shift, they kind of buck up against some of what Dave Ramsey's saying. Dave's very big on paying cash for everything, stop using credit for anything, build true assets, and get yourself out of the owing the money game. He's a big advocate for using cash for everything. He is not an advocate for using a credit card for anything at all, unless it's like absolute total emergency. And then you do everything you can to pay all that off before you do anything else. So, how does my way of bringing in gratitude, being okay with having debt, how does that mash up with Dave? And I'm going to say this. I cannot tell you what method of managing your money is best for you. Only you can know that. What I can tell you is that there might be more to this credit story than what meets the eye. So if you take on credit card debt from the traditional way of thinking about it, that it is a shameful thing, a bad thing, a wrong thing, you're probably not going to have a very abundant experience with it. So don't try to make yourself think that it's abundant if it really doesn't line up with you. And if you're somebody who has been using cash for everything, and that really resonates in your life, by all means, keep doing that. I'm a big fan of using cash for everything. I'm a big fan of challenging myself to use cash even whenever it's the last of my cash. To me, it's just a prosperous power move that says, hey, I can use this because there's plenty more where that comes from. There's plenty more where that comes from. There's plenty more where that comes from. So I cannot tell you if you should use credit or not use credit. I can tell you, do what feels right by you first and foremost. And if you're not in a place to be open to accepting a line of credit in a prosperous way, then I would recommend you don't do that. You do what feels most prosperous to you. My husband, having debt is not comfortable for him. He frets, he worries, it's of a concern. It's like a burden that he carries around. For me, for whatever reason, I just really trust myself that I'm going to be able to figure this all out and that I can move forward. Um, in a prosperous way while having debt and not feeling ashamed of it. I really see it as the way that I was open to receiving at the time that I was asking for more to come into my life, because I hadn't built all those levels of my self trust and my own worth, understanding my own worth and value to the point of understanding that I could actually receive in other ways. I thought it had to come through somebody else, and that if you didn't have it, then credit was the only other option. So while I never recommend for people to take the financial course or financial path that I've taken, it does also work. And I have been very grateful to be able to do things like, I don't know, go to college and get my massage license, all thanks to credit. I've been able to pay my bills, thanks to credit. I've been able to not have to put off living my life, thanks to credit. But if doing something right now to feel as if you're living life is going to be a quick exchange for 7 months or a year or 7 years of debt and or worrying about paying back something, you've got to be able to balance the cost and reward. You've got to be able to look at the return and investment. There's a lot of factors to bring into the equation, but also know, just like I touched on earlier in this conversation, there's no wrong decision. No wrong decision. And if you open a line of credit thinking this is going to be my relief for something and it's going to lead me to a certain point, and that doesn't happen, it doesn't mean that you made a wrong or bad choice. It just means that you are actually in this for something different than what you originally thought. So look to see what gifts can come back around to you. So here's a little story on how accumulating debt actually helped me through a big healing process. I found myself in a tight situation a few years after I opened my business. I was practicing out of my home, so I had a high overhead. I was paying rent places, and I just was not, I don't know, attracting clients or keen enough on my marketing or whatever to be attracting the money that I needed in order to keep everything going. So I used credit because it's what I had. I mean, like I used credit a lot because it's what I had. Now, here on the other side of it, I can see how it paved the way. It allowed me to do everything that I've been needing to do. And I hit a point, that I just couldn't keep up with it. I just couldn't keep up with it. So I stopped using credit. I paid cash for everything. I was able to secure a loan that allowed me to consolidate half my debt together. I paid that off over a 5-year period. I used cash for everything, cut my debt in half, still was able to, get a new phone when I needed it, new glasses when I needed it. I just paid cash for everything. I changed everything in the way that I handle my money. And I got, half my debt taken care of, and I was feeling really empowered and I was really trusting myself. So I also realized that I could spend another 5 years of saying no to everything that calls to my soul while I continue digging myself out of this hole. Or I can make some investments that help me to expand my prosperity consciousness so that I could shift whatever was happening internally that kept me having a not enough experience with money. So I decided to trust myself in opening up a loan or an extended a line of credit, used some of my credit that I had built up, and I used it to invest in an opportunity to help me shift the way I did my practice, help me shift my mindset, helped me to expand my prosperity consciousness. And over a 2-year period of time, I actually recreated the same debt that I had just worked 4 or 5 years to get myself out of. But what I did was I created the perfect opportunity to sit in that same situation again and have a different experience of me. And when I hit my financial crunch the first time, I abandoned myself. I really did not treat myself very kindly. I was very upset, disappointed with myself. I thought that I was wrong in the way that I was living life, and I felt guilty. I felt shamed, and I felt disempowered when it came around money, when it came to money. This time around, on paper, it looks like I'm kind of messing everything up, or at least it did. It's tilting. It's tilting. But on paper, it can look like this girl does not know what she's doing. This girl has debt again. This girl is blindly spinning. She's repeating the past. But I knew I wasn't repeating the past because I made these decisions consciously. About a third of what I recreated in my debt was my poor habits of managing money, but it taught me where are my blind spots with money. Going into it consciously is way differently than just feeling that panic and making that default choice. When you make that conscious decision to take on debt, there is a conscious way to do it, there's an empowered way to do it, and there's a disempowered way to do it. And an empowered way of doing it is having a plan for repayment and having a way out of it. So whenever you make that decision to bring on debt, look to see where is it going to. Is it going to fill a want or is it going to fill a need? And if it's setting you up for a better point down the road, to me, it's worth exploring. That's me. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm saying it's worth exploring because are you saying no to it because of what it's going to look like on the outside or because society says it's shameful to have debt? Or can you go into it consciously knowing that every step along the way, you've got your back and you are fully equipped to handle this? I think that it's more about the energy that goes behind the decision than the decision itself. Because again, it all comes down to one thing and one thing only. And that one thing is how are you experiencing you no matter what is happening around you? Mm, mm, Okay, my mom's texting me saying, "What time are you done?" I'm going to tell her, wrapping up now. So, Aaron, I really hope whenever you watch the replay, that helps clarify that. I can't say do this path, do that path. You really have to do what feels right to you. I just feel that money is so much more than a piece of paper and that we've got a lot more depth that we can push into whenever it comes to credit and all of this stuff. And if we're just looking on that physical outside of what it physically looks like due to societal conditioning and what society says that it is, that's what experience you're going to have. And if you shift your belief around it, maybe you'll have a different experience of it. And again, it all comes down to how you're experiencing you. Amber, this is going to be the last little thing here. Amber says, what are your thoughts on business rejection? I know the common thoughts are it's part of the process, etc., but from an energetic perspective and self-love perspective. Yeah. So I think the majority of rejection that we get in business endeavors has to do with confidence and self-trust. And it either has to do with your level of confidence and self-trust or the level of confidence and self-trust that the other person is that you're engaging with. The only reason that we get rejected in business whenever it's a good fit is because the person doesn't believe that they can actually get the results that you say. And typically, that's because they don't believe that it's possible for them more so than them doubting us. However, if you haven't done the Transform Fear into Confidence Challenge, Amber, I highly recommend that you try that out because it's going to take you through a step-by-step process of all of this. However, if you are not confident, not in the services that you provide, you can have rock solid level of confidence in the service exchange that you actually do, providing your service. But if you are lacking confidence in your ability to connect with that person, and ability to be able to help them to see how your solution's a good fit for them, if you have a lack of confidence in anything when you sit down into those conversations, the other person is going to sense and feel that lack of confidence, and they're going to subconsciously attach it to whatever you're talking about. So although they might not doubt your ability to deliver, there's still going to be something that's off for them that won't let them say yes. So that's the top thing that comes to my mind, is looking at your own confidence and trusting yourself, because part of the abandonment that happens, or part of the rejection that happens, is an opportunity to decide, are you too going to reject yourself? Are you too going to reject yourself, even if this person does? So the reason that we get rejections could definitely go around confidence and self-trust, could be for our own or theirs, or it could just be an opportunity for you to get more connected to your self-worth and your value. Because if we have a disconnect there, then no amount of perfect sales presentations are going to get people to say yes. Because as long as you're doing it in order to prove your value, or to prove that you're worth something, or that you're worth investing in, then you're probably always going to have struggles in this area. So I always say that when life doesn't give you what you want, it is giving you one of three opportunities: to detach more from having it go your way, two, to give you an opportunity to realize your worth and value independent of having this thing. And what's the third one? I can't remember the third one, but there's another one. But I think those two pretty much cover it. So yeah, I would look at it that way. I would look at the self-trust and confidence for yourself and for others, connecting to your self-worth, and then just building your muscle and receiving, making sure that you are very versed in your ability to receive. Because just because you can't receive what you want in the moment doesn't mean you can't receive a very rich experience. Okay, y'all, you ladies are amazing. Thank you so much for showing up, for being here, for staying connected, for not quitting your journey. Like that's just the name of the game right now. Just don't quit. Just don't quit. No matter what happens, don't quit. If you need to go to bed, go to bed. If you need to flip off the entire world and pull the sheets back over your head, then do that. Learn to listen to the one who's inside of you prompting you to do all this stuff, and then you'll start to be able to shift out of it. I'm telling you, I couldn't cattle prod myself to get myself to show up the way that I naturally show up now. The way that I naturally show up now is a natural side effect of me loving and doing this work for my pleasure. I love this work. So the more that I align with doing it for my pleasure, and the less that I attach it to, well, if I do this, then I'm going to get something on the other side, the more I get, not only throughout the experience, but on the other side as well. It's such a power shift, y'all. But again, can't do it for you. Can only sit here and blah, blah, blah about it, and hope that you take some of it in and think a little differently into your own life. Joy says, thank you, Chrissy. This is amazing. It's so nice to see you and hear you and receive support. Aww. I've been doing that for 3 weeks now. I'm coming out. You've been hiding underneath the blankets with your head on the covers. You know, one of the most powerful spiritual gurus that I have in my life, he is brilliant. I mean, like, words cannot really hold how awesome this guy is. And yeah, before he made it out on the scene doing his awesome thing, guess where he was for 2 years? In the bed with the blanket over his head, because he was integrating. So he has really helped me to just be so much more gentle with myself, and to just really understand this is the process. And if you got to stay in bed for a while, it's okay. Life's going to wait for you. If you need to get high, if you need to get drunk, if you need to dive headfirst into a cheesecake, do it. Your spiritual path will be waiting for you on the other side. It presses pause every time that you press pause. And it's like, okay, she's going to be drunk for the next 3 weeks. We'll wait for her to sober up, and then we'll start throwing everything her way again. Life's amazing like that. So we can avoid it all that we want, or we can realize all that we're searching for with our distractions is to feel just an ounce of what we're going to be feeling on the other side if we can just stay sober and awake and out of our bed long enough to just go through it all. We realize it's not quite as painful as what we thought it was, and it's not as painful as pushing all this stuff back and in and refusing to let it come out. When you can just say, I got nothing to lose, so here it all is, everything changes, and then it's like, oh shit, that's all that's going to happen on the other side. I should have thrown up on everybody a long time ago. It's really amazing, and it's like I still shake my head, like, really, that's all that happened? It's so anticlimactic whenever I just face it head on. But it's nice because I can use some reprieve every now and again too. Amanda says, I needed this. Thank you so much. You are so welcome. And Joy says, it's really nice to hear that. Amber says, great soul massage. Yay. See, I'm still feeling my way. I'm still feeling my way into all of this. I've leaned back towards my healer roots versus my coaching roots, even though I still talk about coaching all the time. So yeah, feedback like this is really, really helpful as I continue to clarify what the heck I'm doing. I don't know. I'm just running full force ahead as often and consistently as I can. And the more that I do it and the less F's I give about what other people think about it, and the more that I love myself through the process, it literally is magic. And I can't help but think if everybody did this, then everybody would be experiencing the magic too. I don't know. Rachel says, thank you. Great discussion. Thank you, ladies, so much. Have a beautiful day. And I'll see you around Facebook. Oh, yeah. And if you're not already in the mastermind and you want to take a deep dive into self-love, that's what we're talking about this month over in the Consciouspreneur Mastermind. So you might want to check that out. All right. Bye, y'all.